Alrighty. Waiting on the confirmations from the streaming websites.
Okay.
Live, please. I'll link my Microsoft account again. Hey. Come on. Sign in, please. Thank you. Alright, I'm just waiting on my confirmation messages. Got 2 viewers already, so that's nice.
Nice.
Here, let me turn up your audio here, actually, a little bit.
It's still a little staticky.
No. Good now. Alright, sound check on your end? Just like talking to the mic?
No. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Gotta turn you up a little bit more. One more time for me?
1, 2, 3.
That's good. There we go. Now we got some good stuff going here. Still waiting for YouTube to connect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just need that confirmation. That's all I need. Because last time I didn't wait, and I went ahead and started everything. Even though my dashboard said it was connected, it wasn't actually recording any. Yeah, it wasn't actually like streaming anything.
Thanks.
Yeah. Nope. Let's fix this category immediately. What? Sure. Brawlers Avenue. We'll stream there. Oh, well, nope. Still no connection. Oh, there it is. Cool. All right. Pull up the recording stuffs. Get this going. Alrighty. You ready, sir?
Just tell me when to start recording in Audacity.
Hey. Alright. Countdown from 3 on go. 3, 2, 1, go. We are live with the Red Leaf Retrocast edition. This is episode 20. We've reached another nice little milestone here on the Red Leaf Retrocast. This is the OG cast, you might say. I am your host, JD, joined here with his Canadian friend, Colin. The Red Leaf is staying strong with the Canadians. Colin, how you doing today?
Hey there, ya hosers. I'm doing pretty good. It's been an eventful couple of weeks since the last time we did the cast.
Yeah, it's been 3 weeks, actually. That seems to be synonymous with the Red Leaf Retrocast Retro Gaming Edition. Yeah, that's okay. We like to take the time to play the games, get schedules figured out. And speaking of schedules, if you're following us at social media, at Bowling JD, Red Leaf Retrocast, Twitter, and Instagram, I like posting some of the games we're going to be covering on the next cast. But if you've noticed by today's episode title, We will not be talking about the car combat racers with our special guest. There was some scheduling conflicts with not only just the guest, but also the hosts. And we had to do some last-minute savior for this episode. So now we're doing beat-em-ups. That is on the fray for the day. And it's kind of a genre that we've been putting off for quite some time now, since the games are generally pretty quicker. And what better way for us to finally discuss 6 games that we'll be covering than in an emergency cast episode. So I appreciate you, Colin. You kind of saved my ass here on this one. Otherwise, our nice growing audience by the numbers would have had to wait probably an extra week for an episode. So thank you, Colin, for doing this with me.
Very welcome. Happy to help.
Yeah. We literally just went yesterday. How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? We need ideas, and we need preferably games that we've played before, or at least have a general idea what to do, or what to say about them. But we also got some nice news up for discussion. Got some cool things on the horizon for at least the anime edition, Colin. Lots of special guests lined up from other amazing podcasts out there. In between segments, you will start hearing commercials, just advertising some of those other great podcasts that not only help us out in our growing audience, but casts that I also listen to, and I can't recommend them enough. So instead of going off the cusp and saying it like we have been doing in the past, been in contact with them, and we got some good commercials up for them, just going in between segments. I will have the sound drops going this episode, so that will be back to fun. Kind of mixed them up a little bit, made them a little bit shorter, as per audience request. And Colin, what have you been playing? What have you been up to, as per the usual, as we start this cast?
The week before this past work week was an absolute bitch for me, because at my workplace we're having this big audit going on with an international organization.
Still got the audits going, I hear.
One in particular is they've been preparing for months for this, and looks like all went well. Only a few findings.
Okay.
Our contract with the major airline company that we're connected to, so I consider that a victory.
All right. Any time to play games in between these audits?
I at night would play a lot of Celeste on my PS4. I am loving that game.
Yeah, I have it for the Switch. The only time I got to really dive into it a little bit was back in January on the Modern Gamecast, and I finally, just to cut you off here for a second, Colin, I finally beat Rayman Legends the other day, live stream. Quite a frustrating but yet fun experience. So now that leaves only Axiom Verge if I want to dive more back into that, but I think I'm going to go into Celeste myself. So how are you? You said you're loving the game, right?
Oh yeah, it's addicting as heck. The gameplay is very similar to Super Meat Boy, of Mighty Number 9 and Shantae in there. It's got like the mid-air dash mechanic, although unlike Mighty Number 9, you can actually direct it in 8 different directions.
Yep.
As for Shantae, it's basically just like the wall climbing you can do in monkey form.
Mm-hmm.
It's very enjoyable. I really like the characters. The main protagonist, she's very likable and interesting.
Oh yeah, and I agree.
It actually kind of, in some respects, reminds me of Hellblade.
Do tell. I'm going to need you to explain that one.
The main character, she's on a personal journey of sorts, and kind of similar to Persona 2, has ways of manifesting her psyche in various ways, and
okay,
kind of her inner demons in that sense. And really interesting stuff. I mean, it's not nearly as dark or intense as the way Hellblade does it, but
no. Yeah, Yeah, we'll get. Actually, I'll bring up Hellblade in a future discussion if you can't. If you're watching, by the way, if you're watching live on Twitch or Mixer at Bowling JD or the YouTube channel that Colin, you were kind enough to help me out with before. If you're watching live, you can see the tabs of some of the topics we're up for discussion. So we'll definitely get to some Norse mythology type stuff, you might say.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, the inner mental struggle of the character in Celeste was something I was not expecting going into the game.
Just remember some reviewers talking about how it's a good representation of people dealing with personal mental problems and stuff like that. And I was intrigued, and the game did not disappoint.
Oh, good. So
Yeah.
you beat it already, or you're working your way through it?
I'm getting close to the end.
Okay,
I've beaten level 5.
Oh wow, yeah, you're getting there. It's not a terribly long game by any means, but I mean, personally, it's a top 5 game of the year right now for me personally, and it being essentially a retro style indie type game, that says a lot.
Yeah, highly recommended.
Yeah, if you want more opinions over Celeste, go back and listen to the Modern Gaming edition in the January episode. Is when we covered that. I spoke a little bit much of the same that you just said, Colin, but I didn't go into much of the end game because I'd only played the beginning.
That's true. Yeah, I was gonna say I recommend it to you, and right after you're done with To the Moon and World Ends with You.
Yeah, you got a few games that you recommended to me. I still got to go through Axiom Verge. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to that game though, honestly.
Just not really.
I'm not. Well, no, it caught me enough. It's the Metroid feel of it and everything. I just don't think I'm in the mood for that kind of a game. What I am in the mood for was God of War, that new game that came out. I'll definitely speak more about that in a second. But what I have been doing is going through my Steam library of games. Yeah. You know how Steam be? They go through a big sale every, so often. Games are like anywhere between being given away to $3, or there's a humble bundle and you get, 7 Steam games for $2. It's just dumb things like that are awesome. And I finally decided that I have enough Steam games right now in this moment. I haven't played even half of them. So part of my new streaming schedule of just I pick up a game at night, I pick a Steam game. I've been sort of going in alphabetical order for the moment, and I just play it for like an hour or two. See if I like it, I'll continue playing, and if I'm not into it, then I'll just move on to the next one. I'm going through a lot of Steam games that way. One of the first games I played was Abzu, a game that was actually given to me by a listener a while ago. He just saw it because he actually saw us play Flower and Journey on the YouTube channel, and he's like, "Hey, the same guys made this. Play Abzu," and I swam with the fishes, and I had a very good time.
It's...
Yeah. Then I went into Age of Empires 2, that retro style game. That was super fun. Totally didn't remember how to play or anything. That's a game you could get lost in for just days. You've had to have at least you're a computer guy, played some Age of Empires in your days past.
Yeah, I played the first game growing up quite a bit with my brother, because we were basically PC by default, so we ended up playing quite a few RTS games. I mean, there was Command and Conquer, Red Alert, there was StarCraft, there was a bit of Warcraft. My siblings were a lot more into that one than I was.
Oh yeah. So I played that for a couple hours just going through the tutorials, and I was like, wow, it felt like a game in itself, just going through the learn how to play sections of each one. Good Scottish little voice acting in the HD version. That's the one I was playing on Steam. I've been going through the Steam Link, which I absolutely adore.
Nice.
Yeah, I can Twitch stream it with half the chords that I normally do. It's super fun. Played a little Awesome Knots last night. I got bored of that game real quick, unfortunately. I like the aesthetic. The controls were tight, but the type of game it wasn't really what I was in the mood for. Oh well, they all can't be winners. In my book, the game's fine. Just it took like, yeah, it's a like a arena battle royale type game in a 2D platforming sense. The characters were super cool. There are a lot of each character has their own unique 3 attacks, and you can either compete in a deathmatch mode or a tower destruction type mode. Naturally, you got to level up characters. So if I took the time, I would have a little bit more fun on online. But it takes like 8 minutes to log into online play, and I'm like, I don't got time for this.
Nice.
In 8 minutes, I could have played a whole beat 'em up session, beat 'em up game session. But I think one game that I tried out that I've been dying to try out for a long time that people would be very interested in hearing my thoughts on was Amnesia: Dark Descent.
Yeah, I think I saw a stream of yours pop up on YouTube at one point. Didn't have a chance to watch it yet, but Amnesia, that's a pretty big name indie title.
Yeah, I could definitely see why Amnesia was kind of the catalyst, at least is my opinion. It was that catalyst game that started the big indie horror game scene that was going around for a few years. Because I could see a lot of games that took paid homage or took a lot of the elements that Amnesia was using to a lot of these indie titles. Even something like Outlast. I was like, wow, Outlast used the camera with the batteries, while Amnesia started the whole lantern oil and lighting candelabras and everything. And then I noticed Amnesia wanted to take a lot of its puzzle elements from oh god, what is the game? Oh, Myst. Myst is what I was thinking of. That's what it was reminded me of as I was playing, but the puzzles just weren't unique or interesting. It was something simple as, look at I was in a room and it was, you have a certain amount of time before the shadow creature attacks you. Look at the shelves. You gotta light the candles first, then look at the shelves for a discolored book and pull it out quick. Like that. Those were the extent of the puzzles I was finding. It was hard enough just to find a lever in the very first area to unlock a secret like pathway just to progress. There was one moment in particular that scared me, and that was because the game sound is so quiet, not really anything happening. When I finally did see something and there was some growling going on, that scared me, and I'm not gonna be ashamed that I'm a real pansy when it comes to playing horror games alone.
Yeah, me too, to an extent.
It scared me, but I was just bored the whole time. I was really just interacting with boxes and throwing them across the room and throwing books across hallways the whole time. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm bored. This isn't progressing fast enough. I'm not scared throughout the game. I don't have that sense of uneasiness. Just that one like kind of jump scary moment. It wasn't what I was expecting out of the game. I was quite disappointed. But I could definitely see why the elements, why so many elements from Amnesia were taken into that big indie scene. So I feel like I experienced a big part of the gaming community that I think I've missed out on. I think Josh, who's unfortunately can't join us here today, would attest to that, because he's a big horror game guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're familiar with Amnesia, or at least have seen videos on it, I'm sure, right?
Heck, Yahtzee did a zero punctuation video on it, and he actually had good things to say about it.
Yeah. Well, maybe if I played more of it, I'd feel different, but I'm definitely not the only one that feels this way, for sure. I played an hour and a half of it. So it's not like I didn't. It's not like I didn't give it a good try. I feel.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, got a lot of Steam games to go through. I'll probably get to. I know I got some Saints Row games to go through. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I only played a little bit of the first one, but definitely diving into all those. So I got a lot of Steam games I get to experience for the first time.
Kind of want to. I actually do have Saints Row 2 in my possession. I just haven't had a chance to really play through it, but I've been interested by it. It's supposed to be the best one.
Well, we'll see. That's like the Grand Theft Auto with aliens series of games, isn't it?
That's how it was in Saints Row 3.
Okay.
I think with Saints Row 2, it was playing itself still kind of serious, but also with goofy elements like showering a rival gang member's house with the septic tank truck.
Oh. Oh, that actually sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right.
Yeah. At some point. I completed to the ending C of Nier Automata as well. So.
Ooh. Well, I think you definitely past the point where I played. You're on A2's run?
I haven't played past that point just yet.
Oh, okay.
I've also been kind of addicted to arcade mode of Doom 2016. Of that game.
Oh, yet another reboot title with a lame title.
that really sucks, but love the gameplay. I love the soundtrack. And is a freaking genius.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it's definitely got a rockin' soundtrack. As much as I'm not a Doom kind of guy, why don't we move on to the topics of discussion that I got lined up here? What do you say, Colin?
Let's do it.
All right, so I have a drop for you guys. You can't hear it, but the audience sure as shit can. Alrighty. So, we got on the docket God of War. I don't know if you're familiar with this, Colin, but God of War is a very popular game going around. It got some good reviews.
God of Boar?
It is not God of Boar. It is Dad of Boy Valhalla Edition 2018. Contrary to I just had a Modern Gaming episode with my buddy Drew Boogity Ball. Go hit him up on Twitter and the Twitch and all have you. Spoke into quite a bit of detail of it. Played some more. The reason why I bring it up again is because if you're paying attention to our live streaming, God of War becomes the fastest selling PS4 exclusive ever, topping not just Uncharted 4 but also Horizon Zero Dawn. And to put it in perspective, I believe God of War has sold, over 3.1 million units in the first 3 days of release. My brand new Amazon Echo said it was closer to 3.5 now. I checked in this morning. Which, by the way, I'm loving the Amazon Echo. It's just stupid future shit I'm fucking around with all the time. Nice. I'm asking it like super dumb things like adding big black dicks to my grocery list, things like that, or taking Snapchats and send it to my buddy Joey. And he's like, "How'd you know that's what I wanted for my birthday?" But anyways, it's neither here nor there. God of War is the fastest selling PS4 exclusive. To put it in perspective, the Uncharted sold 2.7 million in its first week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that just shows. I think it's also my theory is, now hear me out, Colin, that more people have a PS4 now than when Uncharted 4 came out. I'm a victim of that as well. I didn't have a PS4 at all until Uncharted 4 came out. I have the Uncharted 4 Special Edition.
Zero Dawn came out.
Yeah, and then Horizon Zero Dawn came out for you, and that was the game that got you to buy the console. So my theory is much. What's up?
A few months after that, I'm not sure what prompted me to do it. Maybe my desire to play Doom 2016 for myself finally reached a fever pitch, and I was like, I must have this.
Yeah,
I guess there's also the PS4 Pro coming out, so.
Oh yeah. I wish I had one, but it's not a big deal to me anymore. I just don't have the 4K TV that can pay. Yeah. So, what do you attribute to God of War becoming the fastest selling exclusive, and how and then we'll get into how this. That's because, well, okay, so we got Hibiki joining us in the chat here. Welcome. He says because Doom 2016 was awesome. Simple as that. Well, it's a Bethesda game, so my opinion might be a little skewed. So I think it's crap, but no, the game is good. The game is good.
Published by Bethesda. Yeah. Hibiki, preach it, brother.
Yeah. Well, Hibiki, Travis. Yeah. Shame he couldn't join us today, but he's got family stuff going on. Yeah, so Colin, go on. Why do you think God of War's selling so well as it is, and why it sold so fast?
It's been like almost a decade since God of War 3 came out. I could be wrong, but God of War as a whole has been a very successful series. I mean, ever since the first game, and then 2 and 3 just kind of built on the gameplay and made it more and more epic with each iteration.
Okay.
Kratos for those games was a real ball of rage, basically, but...
And for the record, God of War 3 came out in 2010, so it's been 8 years.
Okay, close enough. But
Ascension did come out not too long ago.
That's fair. Yeah, I guess the things that got people excited for this iteration was the fact that we've got Kratos to fuck the shit up of.
There are more gods to kill.
I mean, Kratos versus Thor, who doesn't want to see that?
Yeah. Well, the for some reason, Norse mythology and gaming, seemingly out of nowhere with Hellblade and now God of War, two very critically acclaimed games for each of their own individual rights. It's very interesting how Norse mythology has just become this thing. Maybe it's because the Marvel movies have something to do with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Just like Thor being there, and Loki and all the others.
Yeah, we also get a kind of different perspective on Norse mythology in general, because the Marvel movies have kind of skewed them to being good guys, while in Hellblade and God of War, they're both the other side of the spectrum. They're actually like horrible people, or horrible gods, actually, in retrospect. I quite like that difference in perspective. I love that kind of stuff. I love things being turned on its head.
Yeah, Odin Sphere kind of did that too.
Yeah, you're right. That was another one. You and I got to play that. I got to dive much more deep into that game. I haven't given that the time of the day that it deserves. But anyways, what do you think this does to Xbox now? I will never be not the first person to somehow bring up Xbox and how poorly it's doing right now. I'm not saying that the consoles aren't selling, but year after year now, this is 3 years in a row that PlayStation by itself has an exclusive that just tops the charts. Great reviews. Uncharted 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, now God of War. Detroit Become Human is coming out in a few weeks or what have you. What does Xbox have to do at this point? Sea of Thieves was supposed to be their big release title. That was supposed to, get it going, you might say, but it looks like it was just a game that was rushed for Game Pass being sold. What do you think, Colin? What is your opinion on the state of Xbox comparatively to just exclusives? I know it's a topic that's been beaten to death, but I think at this point I think for this particular discussion we can kind of nail it down to just the singularity.
Yeah, I haven't really been paying attention to the discussion, so my opinion should be about as unbiased as possible. But I think it's because Microsoft keeps doing business with companies that the kind of creative freedom with their developers that they should. I mean, they're constantly releasing EA games, Ubisoft games, all those different things. They're trying to please every single person out there, and also Call of Duty, all those good stuff. Whereas Sony, they that do allow a lot of creative freedom, like Naughty Dog.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they're not afraid to take on like newer companies like Guerrilla, who made Horizon Zero Dawn.
Well, yeah. Well, PlayStation had I think an exclusive base with Guerrilla with the Killzone series.
Yeah, I didn't realize
beforehand, but the Killzone series was kind of it ran its course, and this, when a company can make an important title, a good selling title, make a franchise, but I think what makes or breaks a gaming developing company is their ability to create a new title, a hit title, and Guerrilla knocked it out of the park with HZD. I look forward to the sequel and then building off that franchise further. It's much in the same way Santa Monica Studios, the creator of Twisted Metal, which we will be discussing in the next episode, Car Combat, moved on to God of War, and now with essentially this reboot, not reboot, being what God of War became, God of War Valhalla Data Boy Edition 2018, didn't not only did they show the ability to create this new game, but also incorporate that into their old franchise. Really got some new life into it. I really like it.
They can't just keep doing the exact same thing over and over again. I mean, granted, that's what Call of Duty's been doing. I think more people are kind of waking up to that, but
yeah, even with the new the news that came out that there won't be a single player in this year's release at all, I don't think that's going to hurt them as much as people think it is, because most people play it for the multiplayer anyways. With yearly releases and Treyarch, Drew would have a lot more to say on it, and he did on the modern cast that we covered recently. Yeah, but Xbox, with E3 right around the corner, it's going to be it's my more anticipated E3 in a long time, and it's simply just because of what we're going to see out of Xbox. Or what are they going to do next? What is going to be their next big thing that they do? Because what is it, State of Decay? I think that's the one. State of Decay. Probably. Yeah, State of Decay 2, and there was one other exclusive title. I can't even remember it anymore. Those aren't going to be as big of titles as what Uncharted was, what God of War is. They really got to bring it home at E3 this year. Otherwise, they might as well move on to the next console generation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll show Halo and another Gears of War game or something, or just their Nintendo-esque type game. The franchise repeats itself, which is fine. Sony has that with their exclusives. Nintendo has been doing it since the dawn of time in gaming.
Found new ways to make their franchises enjoyable. I mean,
so that is a good phrase you bring up. Go on with that. Make a great point.
Nintendo, they've done all sorts of things with their flagship franchises. I mean, heck, the Mario franchise, they've spanned a whole bunch of different genres. I mean, there's platforming, there's action brawling, there's RPG with the Paper Mario,
right?
there's puzzle games. with like Mario is missing or what have you. And
Yeah.
basically, like they've added new new puzzles, new environments. I mean, the gameplay is basically the same, but they've. I mean, Jim Sterling said a similar thing a while back, that it's always new ways to enjoy the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, Yakuza is a franchise that comes to mind, and how they handle that aspect of gaming, and I really like that. The Yakuza franchise is a great example of that. I'd like to bring up, because Yakuza 6 just came out, and it's more Yakuza, but they keep doing interesting things to keep you in that sort of gaming universe, and Nintendo does that constantly, as you said, Colin, with the Mario franchise, just spanning not only different genres, but kind of innovating what a Mario game is. You know, it's, even though, just in the main series alone, they're just platformers, but going from 2D to 3D, or bringing some gravity elements in there, or giving Mario an oversized squirt gun.
Yeah,
you know, just simple things. Yeah, just simple things. Always look what happened with Odyssey with the hat. Just new things. I think if Xbox is gonna like break out of their mold, I think they've gotten complacent. I think it's pretty obvious now, especially with their beloved Halo franchise. You can't just do, here's a first-person shooter over and over again. You'll get fatigue. I'm getting Ubisoft fatigue. Far Cry 5's a good game in its own right, but at this point, with all the Ubisoft titles that we have, they all kind of mold together into the same thing. Like, I was happy with their kind of revamp of what they did with the Assassin's Creed franchise, but at the end of the day, it's still that formula. So what is, well, we'll bring up Ubisoft. What are they going to do next? Are they just going to continue with that formula? I think they will, but
as long as it makes money.
As long as it makes money, you know, who can blame them? I just won't be really a part of it as much as I used to be. You know, I'm fatigued out with that kind of aspect. So it's going to be interesting to see what Xbox does. I think, you know, you brought up Jim Sterling. I just watched a video on him, and I was actually having a conversation with some people in our community here over the Middle Shelf games. We started with wrestling and the mid card and WWE State, and then I watched the Jim Sterling video, and he actually coincided that quite perfectly. That's a good conversation to have. The Middle Shelf gaming market. Did you watch that video by chance?
I did. I totally agreed with it.
Oh, 100%.
The quote-unquote middle shelf games, they don't try to bloat themselves. They just focus on what will be fun for their audience, like the unique game mechanic. They'll kind of build around that, but they won't like oversaturate it with like other features and such, because then it just becomes more of a task than an experience.
Right. I see a game like Hellblade, you know, even though it was my game of the year last year, that was just my personal feeling on it. That's definitely a middle shelf type game. It's focused on just a couple things really well. No, it's not, you know, this grand AAA title like God of War Data Void Valhalla 2018 edition. I just love saying that. But Hellblade is the type of game that the market needs. Let's continue with just going over Xbox. They got their Halo, they got their Gears of War, they got their Anthem that they're wanting to release. But what happens when you lose the drive of your exclusive titles? What do you have to fall back on? Well, right now, all Xbox has is your games that people can play, be it on PC or PlayStation, with the Call of Duty, the Destiny. You know, they're good games, but they aren't going to keep. They're not gonna keep your audience at Xbox. You know, PlayStation seems to even though people like to shit on No Man's Sky, I mean, yeah, the game has its faults, but when you have a game like that, like that's a middle shelf game. People are
Absolutely.
going to like it,
for sure.
and who knows, maybe 15 years from now, people will be like, yeah, No Man's Sky was probably an underrated title in the end. That's just speculation on my part, but another good example would be the Nintendo Switch. We're talking about games like Celeste, the Nintendo Switch edition of Stardew Valley. Like, those are games that people are going to fall back on. They're different. They're not your substandard first-person shooters anymore. Yeah, middle shelf gaming is definitely something that's being neglected right now. And with the new industry concept of live services, I don't know if we're going to be getting a lot of mid-shelf games anymore. We're not going to have those underrated titles. We're not going to get those hidden gem type games anymore. I won't be able to. I don't know. Like, okay, the original Xbox. 15 years after it was released, you can look back on a good variety library of middle shelf games, and it kind of justifies. Yeah, I actually quite enjoyed the original Xbox. What do I have to say for the Xbox One, or even the 360 for that matter? What do you think about all this, Colin? What do you think about what I'm spewing out of my mouth here?
It makes perfect sense. I mean, I think it's just the fact that so many of the AAA companies like EA and Ubisoft, they feel obligated to throw all of their money at the games that they make with a guaranteed return on their investment.
Yeah,
Sterling says they don't just want money, they want all the money.
Right, they want all the money with the least amount of work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, take Activision. They used to pump out I think back to the PS2 days. They used to pump out like 15, 20 games a year. A lot of, a good chunk of it was shovelware. Yeah, you can get rid of that and focus on some, kind of get more of a focus. But if they're making so much money on something like Call of Duty, they can create a middle shelf game without batting an eye out of some investment, And who knows, that game might take off and they have another property on their hand.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm really worried. A publisher like the people that created the Witcher, Project Red, I think that's what they're called.
Yeah.
Imagine if this Cyberpunk 2022 or whatever the hell it's called doesn't do well. What's going to happen?
I mean, of course, CD Projekt Red, unlike EA and Ubisoft, they actually put effort into their newer games, almost to a draconian degree.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is just for the sake of argument, like what happened? What's going to happen to them if this new game doesn't do well? They don't have anything to fall back on other than The Witcher that is already released years and years ago. Are they going to quickly come out with a DLC for it? I just don't think that'll be, if it's basically every time they release a new game. Project Red isn't my only example. There's been countless companies that just rely so heavily on a single franchise that once that's gone, so's the company.
It's true.
History repeats itself like that in terms of the video game industry. We see it constantly. Or a company will just get bought out by EA and then they'll go to the wasteworks. That's certainly something that's happened.
In that time and again.
Yeah. Well, speaking of new games coming out, and something I'm pretty hyped for, and I'm sure you are as well, Colin, is let's move on to The Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Got a release date for September 14th on PS4, PC, and Xbox One. Not an Xbox exclusive, not even a timed exclusive. It's gonna come out across all consoles this time. What do you think about that?
Looks fun to me. I mean, I haven't played all the way through Rise of the Tomb Raider yet. I don't even own a copy, but
Well, it's much cheaper now, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah, it's more of a time thing for me. But
Yeah, I hear
that's
you.
another discussion. But
It looks like Shadow of the Tomb Raider is going to take a lot of elements that God of War Data Boy took, with the linear, not so linear element to it, where the game is linear, but there's enough exploration element put into that linear path. But even Rise of the Tomb Raider was very much the same way in that regard.
yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah,
I think Tomb Raider in general has been that way.
The newer editions, yes. Beforehand, it wasn't really exploration as much as try to jump to the next path, as you and I experienced firsthand playing the freaking original Tomb Raider on the Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
Make the jump, Laura! Just do it! But I'm watching the trailer right now, and it just looks, I mean, yeah, it's a cinematic trailer, right, first and foremost, but man, I'm always hyped for a new Tomb Raider game. I think the only Tomb Raider game I didn't like was Angel of Darkness on the PS2. I think that's the only Tomb Raider game I haven't liked, and that says a lot about the franchise.
Interesting. Although I know you didn't like Tomb Raider 2 either.
Well, that's for a very much different reason. That's going back to play it, and it is, yeah, the seemingly, it felt like quick time events, and you just die in 2 seconds every time.
Yeah.
That's a very much different story. That doesn't mean it's still not a good game. I just have my issues with it. But Shadow of the Tomb Raider looks freaking fantastic. I'm quite excited for it. I didn't think it would be coming out this early, to be honest. Not this year, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it would be an Xbox exclusive, to be honest. I thought that was going to be the reason for me to get an Xbox. Because I just love Tomb Raider that much.
Cross-platform thing coming a mile away. I mean,
well, yeah.
Rise of the Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider was originally PS4 exclusive, wasn't it?
No, it was a timed Xbox exclusive for a year.
Yeah, my memory was a little fuzzy on that.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I hope to see more. I hope to see more discussion about it at E3 this year. To be honest, just to get that hype train rolling more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before Cuphead comes to the PS4,
it might happen eventually. Who knows? Okay, so there was actually I'm gonna play the next trailer as we discuss the next one. So here's a little bit of interesting news I came across. The Electronic Trade Commission, I think that's what it's called. I could be easily mistaken there, but the point is, the American Trade Commission gave not just Sony, but also Microsoft and Nintendo like a decree order to remove the type of warranty sticker that's on all the consoles and boxes. That, if you know the warranty sticker I'm talking about, where if you remove this sticker to like open up your, let's say, your PS4 or your Xbox or Nintendo Switch, that you void the warranty. So it says it on all the consoles. If this sticker's ripped, you void your warranty. So no matter what happens to your console, you won't get refunded, or they won't fix it for at their expenditure. That's actually against the law from a 1975 electronic law that passed way back then. So more than 40 years later, they're finally cracking down. They're like, no, the gaming consoles, that breaks our law. They gave them a month, if I remember correctly, to get all those stickers off any future release. So taken point, the original PS3 models, they had an overheating issue. Same thing with the Xbox 360s. I had to pop mine open and reapply the GPU with a heat gun. That, according to Sony, that voided the warranty on my PS3. But it was also something that they couldn't just fix, even if I sent it in. Now you can open that up and it doesn't void the warranty. Just as an example, let's say the GPU overheated immediately, or you get the red ring of death on your 360 and you want to fix it.
Yeah.
If you open it up now, you don't void the warranty anymore. I just think it took them 40 years to finally go, all right, fix your shit.
That sounds about right.
God.
I guess having that in the first place was just, they didn't want people tampering with the electronics inside and then claiming it was broken when they messed up at some point and then wanting a refund. They're just trying to protect their own bottom line that way. But
no, I get that, but I find fault in it took the commission 40 years to say anything about it. But it seems like something must have happened, because it's not just the gaming companies that are being hit. A lot of brick and mortar stores like Best Buy are being hit with that now as well. So you as the right of the consumer, if you want to try to fix any electrical any damage or possible issue with your electronics, instead of sending it in, you have your right to try and fix it. Much in the same regards as like something in your car goes wrong, you have it within your right to try and fix it yourself before spending money to have the company itself fix it. Yeah. So I found it a good little fascinating little piece of news. So as a future reference, if your PS4 Pro or Xbox One X goes down, you can try and fix it yourself and it will not void your warranty anymore. If you live in the United States of America. I'm not sure how it works for Canada, but I think it's the same thing.
Not sure either. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, definitely for our Canadian audience there. I know it's a big one, but definitely double check how the Canadian Commission has treated it. But for our American audience, it does apply now. So moving on, just some retro type news. Ikaruga, you like this game, Colin? You've heard of it?
I even had it in my possession at one point.
Yeah, it's like a $70 game on the GameCube. It's considered kind of a rarity. It's coming back. There was a little bit of news that came out weeks and weeks ago, but it didn't have any sort of... It was just kind of a leak over gameplay being played on the Switch. It is coming to Nintendo Switch. It will launch on May 29th, and it will only be $15.
Nice.
You can guarantee I'm getting the hell out of that game, because I've wanted to play it for a long time on a console, and it will also be played in vertical mode on the Switch, which I thought was very interesting. You can play in both screen orientations, vertical and horizontal, because it's a top scrolling shooter. That is super cool.
It's a Treasure game. And Treasure has been known to come out with some pretty interesting games.
Yeah. There were some ports digitally that also came out for it, like on the 360. I really hope this gets a physical release. I won't totally hate it if it's digital only, because I'll get it regardless. I'm just for the type of game collector and gamer that I am. I just like physical releases more. I sure hope it comes to Switch cartridge, but regardless, I'm super excited. It looks absolutely fantastic. Looks tons of fun. I'm playing the trailer now in the chat here.
It's a pretty interesting way that it does its gameplay. Like there's two different bullets being fired at you, white and dark red. And you can actually change your ship's shield to absorb the same color bullets. So if you've got like a whole wall of white bullets flying at you, you can change to white shield and it'll actually absorb it and give you health.
Yeah, it's a really cool mechanic to the bullet hell, the bullet hell thing aspect. That's the word I wanted to use. I'm so hyped, and I think our community is also hyped. I'm seeing I got some Twitter messages personally from our audience getting hyped for the game. So super fun, super excited. The next this is an go on.
As well, because then that'll quite possibly mean more treasure games in the future.
Yeah, Nicalis is the company that's doing most of the game work, game development for the Switch release. In other news, Capcom is re-releasing Mega Man 2 and Mega Man X on physical cartridges for the Super Nintendo and the NES. From what I see here, Mega Man X, they got a picture of it where the physical form will be considered a 30th anniversary classic cartridge, and it's going to be white. Not quite the beige manila color. It's more white. They're limited to 8,500 copies each, and comes with a $100 price tag. So,
oh jeez,
I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, cool. They're gonna, cause the retro gaming repro market, make it go down. Well, actually, Mega Man 2 and Mega Man X weren't the expensive ones. It's more like Mega Man X 2 and 3 that are going for the $140, $150 range. Like, if they really re-release those and they were $100, you'd just save yourself like $20, maybe, if you're lucky. Mega Man 2, I think, is like a $60 game on eBay, if I'm not mistaken. So it's clearly, two things come to mind when I read this. Hey, cool, 30th anniversary cartridge. Retro gaming collectors are gonna clam over it. I personally don't see it as worth it, but I think it's definitely a ploy to get some hype up for the Mega Man anniversary edition that's coming out for the Nintendo Switch soon enough. I think it's just a hype train for that.
Yeah, $100 is seems kind of steep.
Yeah, especially for an old release as these two are. It's cool. I mean, the art on the box is awesome. The label looks good. I know how expensive it is to produce cartridges. That's why you got something like Chrono Trigger was like $130 on release or something, if memory serves. Right. Yeah, it was really expensive, but the game was much bigger than all of other games at the time, and the memory chip, I think, required more hardware and stuff. So there was reasons why it was expensive. I don't really understand the reasoning behind this $100 release. But didn't they just do this with another game? Didn't Capcom release another physical release of something recently? Like, wasn't it Metroid or something? If I'm not mistaken.
Knowledge. I'm really not entirely sure.
I can't remember, but this isn't the first time we've seen a re-release of a Super Nintendo cart. But hey, more power to them. If people buy them, they're only selling 8,500 of them. Why not? I say. Yeah. Well, alrighty, Colin. You got some other news you'd like to hit, or shall we move on to our main topic?
Pretty much tapped out for video game news, so I think we can move on to our topic.
Alrighty, let's let me play this real quick drop right fast, and we can move on. Alrighty, so the first game up for discussion. Well, first of all, thank you all for joining us today. I'm very, very happy all of you listening at home or in your car or wherever you are, especially for this emergency episode that we had to kind of clamor for last second. We are talking about beat 'em up games. Quite a fun old school genre, that's for sure. We don't get beat 'em up games anymore at all. I guess the closest to a beat 'em up game we could get is the hack and slash type action that we saw in God of War or the Gears of War's games, even though that's a first person shooter. Like that comes to mind for me personally of a modern day type, at least with beat 'em up elements in those hack and slash type things.
Don't forget Nier Automata.
Nier Automata is hack and slash. Yeah, the elements I guess are beat 'em up since it's close combat.
Warriors.
But yeah, but the beat 'em up genre is definitely a product of its time, for sure. This has definitely been a genre, a theme in the making. I know there's quite a few of our audience members that have personally messaged me for this topic for quite some time. So, when I say beat 'em up, what comes to your mind, Colin?
Lots of punching and throwing.
What about gameplay?
And quarter munching.
Quarter munching for sure. Yeah, you always saw them in arcades. I have experience with a lot of beat 'em up arcade games for sure, just in the bowling alley or wherever it might be. What kind of gameplay elements come to mind when I say beat 'em up? Besides the kicking and punching.
There's also picking up weapons and using them, or throwing them, picking up barrels and throwing them, picking up downed enemies and throwing them at other enemies. Jumping, drop kicking.
Yeah, okay. So
damsel in distress scenarios.
Sure. We definitely will see that in a couple of the games. What comes to mind for me is trying to cheese it in various glitches that happens. Trying to despawn enemies, or having the character at the edge of the screen. I'm mashing the punch or kick button before the enemy character gets on the screen.
Yeah,
those are elements. Bullshit platforming techniques that don't belong in any beat 'em up series. That comes to mind. There's always that kind of element, seemingly in every single game. We'll definitely get to one of those later. What else? Three-ish characters to choose from. You always have the big bad burly dude, the hot woman in a bikini type character, and then your random like midget character. That always seems to be an element that plays into beat 'em up games. Co-op is another aspect that comes into beat 'em ups. Always mashing. Nothing beats button mashing with a friend, you might say.
Of course, all the continues.
Oh yeah, endless continues, game over, easily getting game overs. Yeah, a frustrating yet fun experience. Beat 'em ups is a lost genre. So why don't we take that into our first game? And we're doing something a little different here. We're actually gonna go in the game's orders of year it released, starting with the oldest to the newest of the 6 games we're covering.
That's good.
Super fun. So let's start out with a heavy hitter. It is the 1987 release Double Dragon. Ooh. All right, Colin. Why don't you start us off here with that?
So, personally, I didn't really play much of the NES version, which is the one we're talking about right now. I mean, I knew it existed, but the one I played more often was the Game Boy version that my brother borrowed from a friend of his.
Oh, that's an interesting version of the game. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Console experiences were limited growing up. It was mostly friends' houses and all that.
Uh-huh.
I enjoyed it and played a little bit of it. Some YouTube videos of it before this cast, and it does seem to be pretty satisfying. I mean, the movement seems a little slow and stiff, but that's sort of a product of the times. That is basically rescue your girlfriend from a rival gang.
Right.
Again, product of the times. That was the 80s.
Oh yeah,
Big
that's for
furry
sure.
dudes punching and kicking their way through armies of enemies to get to his girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was, as said, it was released in 1987. The arcade version was. I believe the NES version came out in 88. Is that correct, Colin?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it
yeah.
says on this title screen.
Yeah, and ported to the NES in 98 by Technos, developer, North America by Trade West. And I believe, in my opinion, the NES version is definitely the more superior version. I have played that before quite a number of times. For the cast, though, I kind of focused on the Master System version. And before I get into the Master System version, let me talk about the NES version here for a second. The sprites are a little small, but the controls, as slow as they were, I think the hit detection and the response was quite good. The color palettes used were very simplistic. It was an older NES title, but everything worked out quite well. The boss, you run through a stage, you can pick up weapons, and after a few uses of the weapon, such as, I guess it'd be like a rope or throwing a box at a character, they would, after either one throw use or a couple hits of an enemy, the weapon would disappear. The boss enemies really stood out to me because they were always like twice the size of the character, looked like a dude, like an alien dude with buff chest muscles, fighting. Just funny little elements like that, or enemies would come into play. I actually quite got a kick out of a lot of the mission types. Mission 1 ends with you on a conveyor belt fighting one of those big burly dudes, and obviously the game likes that in each boss battle. I noticed in Double Dragon, at least with the NES version, each boss battle has some way you can cheese it. So like that first mission, you face the first guy, there's a conveyor belt like going into a bottomless pit. You just kind of lead the boss to the edge of that conveyor belt, and as soon as you knock him down once, which isn't all that hard to do, via drop kick or what have you, and then he'd fall into the pit and you win. So there's always things like that. There's a number of glitches you can look up online, which I did, and I had fun with some of the glitches. Like at the beginning of mission 2, you can climb up a grate, and when you see these two enemies come on screen, you get the bat, you go back up the grate, cause the screen to go off them for a second, and the sprites will disappear, right?
Oh yeah.
But you just start swinging the bat, like you go back to that screen after they disappear, and you just swing the bat, showing nothing, and you'll actually get your hearts up. So there's a little bit of a level up system here as you progress through the game. The more hearts you have, more enemies you destroy, you'll increase your hearts, and the more hearts you have, the more damage you'll do per hit, so you can destroy enemies easier and quicker. So you're swinging the bat at nothing, and you're just increasing your points to get your hearts up. It was a funky little glitch. I think it was the second, if memory serves, the second boss battle. You can just climb down the ladder once you see him, and you'll beat him immediately because you despawned him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's funky shit like that. However, so I like the fact that you have a kind of a progression system in how strong your character gets. I love that aspect about the game. The hit detection never felt forced. There was, I believe it was mission 3, where the game like seemingly just spikes in difficulty. We see this a lot covering the cast in a lot of these retro games, where, especially with arcade games, like once you get to a certain point, it's usually like mission 3 or 4, all of a sudden the game difficulty spikes hard to get those quarters out of you. You know that? You feel the same way, Colin?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, these used to be arcade games, the majority of them, so that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Uh, Obviously, my technique throughout the entire game here was to use the drop kick to the face, especially on boss battles, just so because it automatically knocks them down, right? If you there's one boss battle in particular where there's two burly guys at once, two big burly guys, and the game kind of teaches you real quick to not let them surround you on both sides, like you're in between them, because otherwise they'll just beat and batter you hard on both sides. Like immediately will get you to lose a life. And there's not infinite continues in this game. You got to start over from the beginning. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so I believe it was mission 3, which hits you with that boss battle, and then as soon as you finish that off, like as soon as you end it, you have to go through a cave, right? The game doesn't really teach you can go through doorways like that. So if you decide to just keep going right, the stage will actually loop on itself and you'll have to replay it again. So I actually did that at first and it was bullshit. I hated that. I was like, I have to do the stage again? So then from then on, it's like, holy crap, if I don't try to go through the door, I'll have to do the stage over again, risking losing another life. And it does that multiple times through the game. On mission 4... that's where you come across your first experience of platform jumping. Did you get to this point in the game?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
although
yeah.
I do remember in the Game Boy version there was like a jumping puzzle that was a direct rip-off of Indiana Jones' Last Crusade when he has to in Latin.
Okay.
Cross it. Basically, you did the same thing by jumping, but because the jumping could be so finicky with the directions, me and my brother never got past it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, there was no jumping button, because the NES controller only had the A and B button, and to do the jump kick is A and B at the same time. Well, in this mission 4, Colin, there's 3 platforms you got to jump on, and the only way you can jump on it is doing that jump kick.
Yeah.
And it's not the most accurate in the world. So let's say you don't hit A and B properly the first time, and then you panic and hit it again. You'll just fall into the bottomless pit. It's really bullshit that you'll immediately lose a life just because of a dumb element like this. The other thing in that level is the level will loop on itself, right? Take you back to the beginning. So what you actually have to do is go back through the door you came. And that'll progress you through the level. But your instinct is to keep going right. So again, it'll just loop on itself, and then you'll have to do the jumping platform part again, where you can easily die. Nonsense. I couldn't get past mission 4 because of this. I got really fed up. So then I switched to the Master System version. This game's unplayable on the Master System. The flicker's terrible. The hit detection is just straight ass. Like it's all based on luck if you hit the character right. But yet the enemies can hit you no problem. Didn't even manage to get past level 1 because it was just that ass. Very brutal to play.
Remembered. My brother actually had the Game Gear version growing up, so I played a lot of that one too.
Okay, so how was the flicker and all of those things with the Game Gear version? Do you remember?
It wasn't bad. We were able to get up to level 3. It was a lack of skill that kept us from progressing further, but
okay, I hear you.
I still remember the name of the stage. Get Down Uptown.
Yeah, the music isn't totally unmemorable to me. Mission 3's stage music really stood out to me. I quite like that. It wasn't quite like Mortal Kombat, because Mortal Kombat came out years later, but it did remind me of that. It definitely reminded me of like an 80s action movie, like Lethal Weapon. I love the part where you can like straddle the dude after you knock him down, and then you can just beat him up like UFC style, just do right on the ground, and then they immediately die. I love that. That was probably my favorite mechanic you can do in the game. But if you don't do it quick enough, the dude on the ground will throw you off him and do a little bit of damage. It's just cool little things like that. How did you feel about the hit detection? Like, how did that make you feel in the game?
I mean, I didn't really see any points where you couldn't hit the enemy, but they could hit you, which was unfortunately my experience with a couple of the other games with this cast.
Right.
It felt fair. It felt satisfying. You could actually like feel the hit, which is more than I can say for another game on the cast, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. I like how you phrase that. You can feel the hits. And it's just something simple as the sound effects match you hitting the enemy.
Reason I like Super Smash Bros. Melee more than Super Smash Bros. Brawl. You can actually feel the hits more with Melee, but that's off topic.
Right. What else did I want to bring up? I had something else I wanted to bring up with Double Dragon. The game is single player only. And this wasn't the only game on the cast that was a beat 'em up that was single player only. It wasn't until Double Dragon 2 that it was multiplayer. Do you felt this held the game back at all?
Co-op is pretty much what helped put beat 'em ups on the map, really. I mean, it's one of the most enjoyable features of a beat 'em up.
Well, that's what made Double Dragon 2 so popular, was that co-op experience. But with Double Dragon coming out as early as it did in 1987-88, there was really nothing to compare it to. So I don't think that held this particular game back at the time. I think the tight controls and the feeling of your kicks and punches doing actual damage, like that appeal was very much nicely done. I think that the first Double Dragon on the NES is definitely a must-have for NES collectors and retro gamers. Would you agree?
Yeah, you made a good point about it having not much to compare to with co-op, so that's a valid point.
Yeah. The game's hard as balls, though. I don't think it hurts the game too much at all. It is an arcade port. This was kind of the closest version to, because I mean, Sega's big thing was, especially the Master System, was bringing the arcade version home. I was very disappointed. I love the Master System. I have almost as many Master System games as I do in my NES collection at this point. I was very disappointed with the Master System port of Double Dragon. It was just ass. So as much as a Sega mark as I am, I can't recommend that game, but I do firmly think that the NES Double Dragon version is a must-have for NES retro gamers. So,
absolutely.
Do you have any final thoughts on Double Dragon?
Covered it.
We're good with that? Alrighty. Let's see. So, does it get a pass?
Wait, I actually just thought of something. Did you seen any of like the live action movie that was made based on Double Dragon?
Oh, there is a live action movie. I haven't seen it. Is it any good? It looks ridiculous.
It's cheesy as hell. You just have to see the Nostalgia Critic review for it.
Man.
It's like, it takes place in 2007. It's supposed to be like post-apocalyptic. It's just looking back on it, it's really funny.
Post-apocalyptic 2007. That sounds like right up my alley, actually. So does Double Dragon get a passing grade from you? Colin?
Oh, I must have cut out. I said absolutely.
Okay. Alrighty. So then I will play. I will play the Zelda victory music. Alrighty. So, the next game we're going to talk about is a game you recommended, Colin. And it's... Why don't you introduce us to that one?
This game is River City Ransom for the NES.
A very, very popular NES game at the time. I remember it when I had my NES and people would come over to my house and it's like, "Do you have River City Ransom?" I'm like, "No, I don't." "Oh, why?" "Well, why don't you tell me, Colin, why my friends wanted to play River City Ransom?"
Yeah, this one is considered by many to be an all-time classic, and it's not hard to see why. I mean, it's got very much the same gameplay as Double Dragon, but it's got a surprising amount of depth to it. It's like every time you down an enemy, they drop coins, which is something Scott Pilgrim as a series parodies all the time.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
You can throw downed enemies. You can upgrade your character with like sushi rolls and yeah, that's another aspect of the game. With all the money you collect, you can go and get different kinds of food that restore your health and upgrade your attacks, and you can also buy martial arts books that give you special moves.
Yeah, the game had a heavy reliance on the sort of RPG elements to it.
Yeah, and it also had a very cartoony style to it. It's like whenever you would knock enemies over, you see their eyes just bug out and their hair flaring out.
Yeah, that's for sure. I thought so the game was released in 1989, April. The cover art really stands out to me. It reminds me of the Double Dragon cover art, where it's just like two dudes in white t-shirts, ready to take on the town, 80s style. And the music definitely... Go on.
It felt more like 1970s style with like Grease or West Side Story.
Oh, you're right. That's an even better comparison. You're right. All it was missing was some sprites doing some clicking here, snapping their fingers.
Oh, that would have been hysterical.
I liked the way this game. Well, it was developed by the same company in Japan, Technos, as Double Dragon, which makes sense because the sprites were very much the same. Just the color palette was more crisp and defined comparatively to Double Dragon. I saw.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's like the plot's basically the same. You want to rescue your girlfriend from other gangs, and then just going on a big ol' fighting spree.
Oh, exactly. I noticed the sprites' facial expressions definitely reacted more to getting hit. You could actually see like the eyes getting bigger and what have you. It was a lot more Japanese than Double Dragon, for sure.
Yeah, it's actually like a localization of the Japanese game Downtown Neketsu Monogatari, which is part of the Kunio-kun series.
Okay.
Which spans across genres. I mean, the game that came out before this one was called Super Dodgeball.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with Super Dodgeball.
The arcade version of when I was on a road trip with my family, and I tried it once. I got my ass handed to me.
I really liked the weapon elements in the game so much more. It definitely had a much more heavy reliance on picking up weapons and using them and either throwing them or switching between whether it be chains or trash cans. I quite enjoyed that. I thought it was funny that if you double tap and make the character run to the edge of the screen, he'll hit that invisible wall or anything, and it'll act like he's actually hitting that wall, and he'll jump. He'll hit it, go backwards, and land on the ground real hard.
Yeah,
I can't remember if that did actual damage off the top of my head, but it was super funny regardless. I loved all the facial expressions. I loved the weapon usage. I loved how if you kick a couple characters' ass on the screen, the other one will like temporarily run away and then grab another friend. Like he went and got backup. I thought that was pretty funny. But it was all just simple mechanics for you to beat up more enemies so you can get more coins to level your character up more. Did it get a little repetitive? I think so, but I don't think it totally hurt the game. What did you think about like the grinding aspect of this game?
It didn't feel too grindy to me. I mean, the fighting was satisfying enough. You had like punches and kicks and could actually string together some good combos that way. And plus, with like the dash mechanic that you mentioned, you could actually jump higher while you were running,
Right.
Compared to standing still. That's it. The combat was very satisfying. You could, like Double Dragon, you could feel the hits.
Mm-hmm.
A little more fluid. And usage was a lot more integrated into the gameplay. Like you could actually pick up softballs and throw them at the enemies. Which was funny.
It was fun. I liked how the game is non-linear, like most beat 'em ups. You know, you just go left to right until you reach the end of the level. This is like going back and forth, constantly like beating up guys until you get to a certain point. I did feel that the game got more repetitive as it went on because I just found myself, I need to get to this sort of level, so I need to get more coins, eat some food, shove it in my face hole, rinse, repeat a lot. The non-linear element definitely. I think if it was in this left to right aspect, you would then. I think then you would learn to be at a certain level to a point, and you can grind that way. I think that would help a little bit. I don't know, I'm trying to think of ways where it would feel less grindy. I don't know if that would have worked, because yes, you're right, Colin. It was the fighting mechanics were satisfying enough. Maybe not for my personal taste, but what was this? Did this have co-op aspect to it? I can't remember.
Yeah, it did. There's like a 2-player aspect.
Okay. I couldn't quite remember. Obviously, I played this by myself, so I didn't pay attention to that too much. Especially after I played this directly after Double Dragon, so I assumed it was single player only for some reason. But that's good, considering this came out like just a year after the port of Double Dragon. That they had the multiplayer mode involved.
Yeah.
That's great for it. That alone would make the grind feel less grindy, I feel, because you're just
really
playing with a friend.
That.
If your character dropped your weapon, did you ever have a lot of issues beating up the enemies? Because every time you went into a store to level yourself up, you no longer had your weapon. Did you have an issue? Did you die a lot? Because I felt myself dying a lot at first when I'd lose my weapon.
I kind of did. I didn't have too much time to play this, maybe like an hour, but yeah, I did die a lot, but I guess that was just me kind of getting used to the game. Mm-hmm. But whenever I did drop my weapon, the punches and kicks were still pretty good for knocking the enemies away to pick my weapon back up. So that didn't feel too frustrating to me.
Yeah, I was heavily relying on the kick because the punch just didn't have that range. As soon as I started relying on the kick, I got to progress through the game a little bit more. I'm trying to remember if an enemy would throw something at you, you were able to kick it out of the air if you timed it right. I only was able to do that a couple times, but man, was it satisfying when that actually did happen.
I didn't think to try that myself, but that does sound about right. It'd be really funny if you had like the baseball bat, and then if somebody threw a softball at you, you got to do like extra damage by hitting it back at them.
Oh, I don't know if you can do that. That would be interesting. I think it only worked with a kick.
And get too far into the game, but
yeah,
if that's a mechanic, I would probably laugh my ass
off. Well, if you're listening out there and you can confirm that works, let me know, because then the game will immediately get an extra point in my book. That'd be amazing. I know for a fact that you can kick weapons out of the air and they drop to the ground to avoid getting damage taken. Um, it's quite hard to time it right. I'm not very good at it personally, but it is possible.
Yeah, and to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, the Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game that came out in like 2010 or 2011,
Mm-hmm.
that game basically takes after River City Ransom quite a bit.
Yeah,
because a lot of inspiration from it. But
yeah, a lot of games take inspiration from this, especially modern beat 'em up games. The ones that do exist, they're mostly just indie titles though.
This one in particular was pretty much trying to nail it one for one, because like you beat up the enemies, you actually see like Canadian coins dropping from them, like quarters, loonies, and toonies.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah,
like,
I don't really have. I think the only I think if people don't like this game, it would definitely be that grindy element. But other than that, like it's super fun. It's engaging. The weapon elements, the goofy faces, like yeah, there's a lot of like Japanese centric stuff in the game, like eating sushi to level up your character. But I don't like, unlike one game we covered on the cast before, the Momotaro Peach Boy game. A lot of similar elements are in that comparatively to this. But unlike that, I think River City Ransom is just a lot more easily what's the word I want to use? It's a lot more easily taken in by a foreign audience than, say, the Momotaro series. Yeah. The Japanese elements don't hold it back by any means.
Absolutely,
so, yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on River City Ransom?
No, I've pretty much said everything I had to, and it's, like I said, highly recommended, even by today's standards.
Okay, it gets a passing grade, I would say. We play Victory Fanfare. I love that theme quite a lot.
In the Chrono Trigger victory theme at some point.
Ooh, I should get that drop going. Yeah, just a bunch of like RPG victory drops.
Cross victory music a little better.
Yeah. All right. Well, this next game we're going to cover is my suggestion. And it is, naturally, Colin, what would, since you got the two Nintendo ones, I got a couple Sega ones to talk about. The first one is Golden Axe. Definitely something you would definitely think about when you say Sega and beat 'em up in the same sentence. Let me get, for the audience here listening or watching in, little Golden Axe gameplay going. Alright, there we go. No problem. So, Golden Axe came out in 1989 in May, so shortly after River City Ransom.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes Golden Axe interesting is you have 3 playable characters to choose from. So unlike Double Dragon, where there's different modes to choose between one character or another, just kind of more or less a sprite palette swap. Golden Axe actually has 3 completely different characters, and mentioned it earlier when we first started the like, what do you think of when beat 'em ups? Golden Axe definitely like pops into my mind as one of the first things, where you have your big burly dude, your hot chick, and then your random third character that's usually like a troll or a midget or someone with a heavy attack. So Golden Axe is definitely, I feel, one of those like trailblazers that set the standard for that. Because you have it's co-op gameplay. But the difference is that each character has a weapon, and they have a magic meter that you slowly fill up as you play the game, and you can do heavy magic attacks. And there's three different levels of those magic attacks. Generally, there's 4. There, depending on the character, is how many levels there are. My bad. Yeah. I'm sorry. I generally just kind of filled it up until I didn't use it until a major boss fight or major enemy would show up. It was definitely I definitely remember playing this with friends on their Sega Genesis when it did come out. And just the fun of coordinating when to use those heavy magic attacks, or it's like, dude, I'm in trouble. Use yours. It had a lot of fun gameplay elements. The more frustrating one was that you could actually hit your friend. I don't know if you had have experiences with that in this game. Just get annoyed at your friend hitting you.
I never played it growing up, so it was more Streets of Rage for me.
Okay, yeah, Streets of Rage was definitely the second one in particular. a lot of friendly, fun, frustrating moments there. So little backstory on Golden Axe. It was developed and published by Sega themselves. That much in line with what Sega had to do because of the NES kind of embargo on all their companies. You can only make games for Nintendo situation. So Sega had to rely on themselves, and I think they kind of knocked it out of the park with Golden Axe here. Even though the backgrounds in this game, at least with this first one, were very plain, I felt. Even comparatively to River City Ransom and even Double Dragon. You're just in this fantasy world. But there wasn't really much to it other than, a big mountain in the background or something. It was just a lot of rocks or sprites being on screen, what have you. What is your feeling over Golden Axe as a whole?
Bleh.
You don't like it?
No. I mean, the big issue I had with it was the hits did not feel satisfying at all. It was like I was just waving my sword over top of the enemies. It was kind of hard to tell if they were being hit or not.
Oh yeah, you definitely had to be on like the exact plane as them.
And that didn't really sit well with me. And then, I mean, sure, when you get like the combo where the character actually kicks the guy away, then kind of felt it there, but it was still really weird. Plus with the sound effects, that kind of threw me off.
Yeah, they definitely fixed when I think there was a Sega kind of revamp release on the PS2 where like Alien Syndrome and which we covered on the very first cast on Space, and even Golden Axe, they fixed a lot of those hit detection elements of needing to be on the exact same plane as the enemy. I agree, Colin. That was very irritating.
And for whatever reason, in the third stage, I couldn't make my character jump at all. I don't know if that's a problem with the, but that prevented me from progressing.
Oh, weird.
Like there's one button for attacking and one button for the magic, and the third button did absolutely nothing.
Oh, it sounds like your third button wasn't working then.
But
because there were three attacks. Yeah, that's not.
I guess I just got a bad version of it then.
Yeah, because you didn't. Well, maybe you had to. No. You definitely Yeah, it sounds like your C button on your controller or what have you just wasn't working. I thought the other thing that irritated me about the game was a lot of the just pitfalls. I found myself very easily getting attacked by an enemy, them drop kicking me right off the stage. It just felt too easy. You got that like the first time you feel that is at the beginning of stage 2, where like basically the entire area down or to the left was bottom's pits. I thought the game was very unforgiving in a lot of those elements. It wasn't the only instance of that in the game at all either. Even at the later end of the stages, it seemed lazy. It seemed lazy game design. This game definitely lacked a lot of the comedy elements or engaging elements of the first two we discussed. But where the game definitely shines is its like fantasy-esque theme it's going for, and the fact that you can ride like dragons and animals and what have you, and do some crazy damage to enemies. A lot of the elements were I'm more familiar. I was more familiar with Golden Axe 2 going into this, so playing the original was definitely I want to say disappointing, but it much like with playing older ones, you definitely feel a sense of, man, they could have done so many things better, and it was very much more obvious in Golden Axe 1 comparatively to 2, as opposed to us talking about Double Dragon compared to the second one. The first one felt great, just lacking the multiplayer. Double Dragon 2 did everything right in its sequel, while Golden Axe 2, compared to the first one, just felt like they fixed everything that was wrong with the first one. So then why would I bother playing the first one then?
There is one reason. The chainmail bikini lady.
Well, yeah, obviously. Hot chick number 2.
And before anybody gets angry about that, the guy is wearing just about the same amount of material. So.
Oh, he looks like a WWE wrestler in his Speedo and showing off his burly muscles, so yeah. There was some fan service for both genders, to be fair. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I didn't know anyone who wanted to be the troll ever. Did you?
Or with him.
I could go on.
I didn't bother with the troll myself, mostly for time purposes, but I played as the first 2 characters.
I did as well. I did the same thing. I don't have the first Golden Axe on the Sega Genesis. I did kind of cheat and emulate for the experience. I do have the revamped PS2 Sega collection, and it was very much easier to play, much more enjoyable. Going back and playing the original felt like a task. Yeah, so many elements were just not working, especially on the mid stage levels where you're at a campfire and you have to like kick the little dude with the sack to get the magic out of him.
That pretty funny.
Oh, I mean that's the most comical element of the game, but again, when you're playing the original version of it and you're needing that magic boost, if you're not on that same plane, he easily just runs around you because he's so fast. I found it much easier in the more revamped version of the game. The stage 3 was definitely a standout to me because you're fighting on the back of a giant turtle. Yeah, and then to go to stage 4, you ride the turtle to the next day. I thought that was really cool. I wish I saw a lot more of that kind of stuff in this game, personally.
Yeah.
Especially because the first 2 levels were so dull. You can't kill the villagers even. What is this? Can't even attack them. I wanted to murder some villagers. Yeah, so it sounds like that you didn't get to really experience the turtle stage because you couldn't jump over that bridge gap, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, you can easily fall off the turtle anyways and die, so I don't think you missed much other than frustration. Well, is that enough over Golden Axe?
I'd say so.
Yeah.
I care for it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see the appeal of it, but it had a lot of issues with me, with easily falling off the stage, and just the hit detection on matching the plane. I just miss enemies all the time. I didn't get that in River City Ransom or Double Dragon, so I guess it gets a fail drop from us, doesn't it?
Fatality.
All right. And for your sake, Colin, I played the Mortal Kombat Fatality. Fatality drop, so. Oh, boy. Well, alrighty. Let's move on to our next game. What do you say?
Sounds good.
Alrighty. So our next game is another Sega title, another one I suggested, and it is the original Streets of Rage. Woo! This was the one that competed against Final Fight, Nintendo's single player beat 'em up quintessential experience, you could say, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Final Fight was a game to be reckoned with, and the original Streets of Rage was Sega's answer to it, and it came out in 1991. So we're out of the 80s now, and just to compete, Golden Axe was a thing. It was very popular. Oh, I forgot to mention the Master System's unplayable. I totally forgot to mention that. I'm sorry. So that was another instance of the Master System version just not owning up. Very disappointing. Well, and for the sake of it, I have to also mention that Alter Beast is also pretty much unplayable on the Master System.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So, Streets of Rage, you can it was another Sega published and developed game, much like Golden Axe. The difference being that this was multiplayer.
Yep.
Just like Golden Axe, and trying to compete with Final Fight at the time, that was huge. I remember when Streets of Rage came out, and all my friends had a Genesis, Mega Drive. It was insane. We were all hyped up. You can pick between 3 characters yet again. You have your cool ass burly white dude. You had your hot chick, and then in this one you could pick a black guy named Adam.
Yes.
You had your power attack, your jump attack, and then your speed attack.
Pretty much.
Yeah, very very simple. Super fun. What did you think of the original Streets of Rage? Because whenever you say Streets of Rage, everyone always goes straight to the second game. So this was fun actually playing the first one. I remember the first one coming out. I do remember playing it as a kid, but it was very foggy in my memory, so it was very good going back to it for the podcast. What are your thoughts on Streets of Rage, Colin?
Yeah, I ended up as a kid at my friend's house playing Streets of Rage 2 more, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't this version, I knew that much, but yeah, I played this version, the original.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more satisfying combat than Golden Axe.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely felt they fixed those plane issues in this one. Like if you're slightly below the enemy, you do hit them. You do still hit the enemy. I noticed that immediately on playing this game. You can hurt your friends in this one as well, just like in Golden Axe.
Yeah, I remember Streets of Rage 2 having that same deal.
Got to be careful. That's using the special attack that'll take your life away a little bit, and especially when you hit your friend. Oh, that was grounds for divorce immediately. Friendships were over if you hit your special attack on your friend instead by accident. Oh God, or accidentally throwing your buddy. Ooh, I found myself always being like, "Hey, you get the right side of the screen, I'll get the left." Much like in Golden Axe. Well, Golden Axe 2 is what we ended up doing that for. But this was very much in the realm of move left or right. You had your little go arrow that constantly told you. I loved the aesthetic of this game, Colin. I loved it.
I really liked it too. It's like back alleys of LA and beach of Miami, I think. Sometimes the backgrounds could get a little repetitive. Like in the first level, the same shop would repeat like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, kind of a limitation of the time. You definitely see a lot of that. I think they were trying to.
Good.
Oh yeah, it looked fantastic. It was much more detailed. So the fact that they repeated a few of the shops to have more detail for what they had, as opposed to say what we saw in River City Ransom, where there were different shops and different areas, but everything looked more or less much more similar to each other. I think Streets of Rage, they're going for a more unique neon experience, which was very synonymous with the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of those purples and greens going on.
Yeah. I liked how much reach the attacks had.
Yes.
I really
yes.
enjoyed that.
Yeah, especially with the weapons, it almost felt like you had triple the range to attack. But that also meant you had triple the range to accidentally hit your friend.
Yeah. But it's very useful against those dominatrix ladies with the whips.
Ooh, yeah. Sega really pulling out the mature elements in this one. What was the plot of this one again? Because we definitely experienced. We didn't even talk about the plot in Golden Axe. That's okay. Defeat the Grand Wizard that's going to kill the town. You've been hired. But in the first two games we discussed, yeah, your friend was in trouble in Streets of Rage. Like he was caught by like a mafia group or something, or a rival gang.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these beat 'em ups were basically like rescue the damsel in distress.
All right, so I got the synopsis of the plot here. The once peaceful city has been taken over by a criminal syndicate, including factions of the police, mass violence, and is now common, and no one is safe. Adam Hunter, an accomplished boxer, Axel Stone, mixed martial artist, and Blaze Fielding, a judo expert, are young ex-police officers that have quit the force because of corruption to fight back against the syndicate. And that's so they're just fighting against the crime syndicate that's taking over. Yeah, I couldn't quite remember.
I can dig that.
Yeah. I like the corrupt the ex-cops want to fight corruption kind of thing, and they're just ready to kick some ass and take some names and give those names to all the other guys that kicked. The other thing I noticed was the foreground detail. You know, whether it was signs or fire hydrants or bushes, there was more stuff going on in the foreground as you progress through the levels. That was something that totally lacked in Golden Axe, was non-existent in the first couple games. This one had so much attention to detail, even in the sprites, the boss battles, cars coming up on the screen, police showing up with bazookas, like just wild stuff, like always happening on the screen. Streets of Rage, I was very happy with what I experienced in Streets of Rage here.
Yeah, I really liked it too. Like in the beach level, you actually see the water lapping up on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
Which was really cool.
Yeah, I definitely felt like we, playing these games or just talking about these games in order of release, we definitely see that this was, at least for the games that we cover, this was definitely the experience of this is the next gen kind of deal. With the music, how much detail we're seeing on screen, just what the next generation of consoles were capable of.
I really like the music in this too.
Yeah, it's when I think of Genesis music and how unique the console was, like the Streets of Rage series stands out to me with just memorable music. Rock on, man! Rock on, Colin!
Oh yeah.
Oh boy, what were some of your like favorite techniques or levels or enemies? Like you mentioned the dominatrix women. I really like the judo girl and the like a wrestling move she would use, the suplexes.
I didn't play as any other character than Adam, but
oh, you picked Adam, did you? I picked the girl immediately. She got all those judo moves, man.
Well, I think like Golden Axe, a bad version of the game where I only had like the big crushing attack with the police guy firing the bazooka to clear the screen, and just a basic attack button with the third button doing nothing yet again.
Yeah, I really think your C button was broken or something. That's what it sounds like.
But even with those limitations, I still had a lot of fun with this one. Like how you can guy just when you're close enough, grab the guy, and then Adam will like knee him in the face multiple times and kick him away.
Sure.
Throw him in the other direction and hit the other enemies. That was a lot of fun.
Did you ever try like pressing A and B at the same time for a third attack?
Yeah, but it just triggered the big, huge screen clearing thing, and you only have limited ammo for that.
Right. Yeah, you can only use it a certain number of times. You got to earn them, or hopefully get the power ups in the level. Refilling health with various fruit and meat when you're breaking boxes. I thought was funny. Golden Axe had that a little bit, but it wasn't as memorable as say Streets of Rage when you break a trash can and apples on the ground.
Or a phone booth.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you could. There was a lot more environmental destructibles in this game. It was basically encouraged to it brought a little bit more life to the game than the previous ones we played so far.
Absolutely. Feel the hits this time.
Oh, for sure. Boom, boom, boom. Like you do a low. The character's usual kick. Like I think if it was hit like the second or third time, the character would grab their, or at least to me, it looked like they grabbed their nutsack. Yeah, I think they were going for holding their midsection, but a couple sprites in particular like would grab lower than usual, or at least it would appear so. Yeah, this game just screams 90s, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, especially with the gang elements.
The character Alex, like white t-shirt, jeans, sneakers. I think he had a bandana. I can't remember.
He sure did. It was blue too. Matches jeans. Can't have those colors clashing. I liked how a lot of the evil crime gang syndicate guys reminded me a lot of characters coming out of Fist of the North Star. That anime. Very, very 80s. Mad Maxy kind of deal going on.
Sure.
Yeah. One thing I did really appreciate is the health bars of the enemies. You could see it decreasing.
I didn't have that.
Well, like on a boss battle in particular, a bar would show up on the top of the screen and show us how much health you're taking off the boss. That's something that quite lacks in a lot of games. Like especially when I think of RPGs. And you just see numbers going across the screen. You don't really know how much damage you're doing, other than, oh, I'm doing more numbers than usual. Well, how am I to know how much health the boss or enemy has if you don't see a bar going down? Like those numbers mean so much less, you know. At least with regular enemies, if you hit them once or twice with a weapon, or 3 times, they're gonna die. But having the health bar come up for boss battles, I really appreciated. It brought an extra little element to the game. I like and enjoy. Is there anything else we want to touch on for Streets of Rage?
No, not that I can think of.
Do you think it? Yeah, oh yeah, it definitely gets a pass with me. Do you think it was the right sort of game to compete with Final Fight?
They do seem to play fairly the same. They got like the long reach character attacks and the throwing and all that, all the gang fighting.
Yeah, they definitely reminded me of each other, that's for sure. It was definitely Sega's answer. I thought it did well, so gets a passing grade from me. You too?
For sure.
Okay. Yeah. Let me get that drop out. What do you say? Let's see here. I think... Oh man, running out. Let's do Sonic Victory. Why not? Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to get some more.
There's a lot of video games out there. There's
a lot of video games. Yeah, I'm just this is more testing the grounds for what I'm capable of. So, all right, so we got that's 4 games down. We got 2 to go. And right. This next one is your pick, my man.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4: Turtles in Time.
Yeah, people have heard of this game. It's well loved. Were you a Were you a Ninja Turtles fan growing up?
Not particularly, but my brother was for sure. I didn't really get the chance to watch the cartoon very much, but I remember playing the arcade version of this one with my brother back in the day, and we loved it. It was so much fun. And even now, I still love it. It plays exactly the way I remembered, and it's just as satisfying, just as chaotic and crazy in the best possible way. It's just great game.
Yeah, so it was released. The arcade version was released in 1991. It was developed and published by Konami. You know, that current piece of crap company that only makes pachinko machines. This is when Konami was good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Came out on the Super Nintendo in 1992, so another year has passed. Because Streets of Rage was 91, right? Yeah. No, it came out the same year. Same year. So same year, around the same time, as a matter of fact. Same month, just about. November. So, Ninja Turtles was freaking huge. I loved it. I loved Ninja Turtles growing up. I loved all the characters. I loved Cowabunga Dude. Got to get to pizza time. You know, all that stuff. I had the original Ninja Turtles game on the NES, and then I pretty much never wanted to play another Ninja Turtles game after that. Even though at the time that won Game of the Year. So the only experience prior to the cast I've had with any Ninja Turtles game after that first one was any arcade release. So I did play, I think it was Ninja Turtles 3 in the arcade. I have played Turtles in Time on the arcade machine, but I never played it on the Super Nintendo, which is what we'll be talking about. And this game is fan-fucking-tastic.
Absolutely.
Everything's very responsive. Every attack feels like it's doing so much more damage than usual. I love the cartoon sprite aspect of it. They look exactly like who you want them to.
Yep.
Unlike that original Nintendo game that I speak of. How dare I? Every character seems different yet the same because of how they attack. You know, you Donatello, Michelangelo, Leonardo. I love them all. I could be any character and be satisfied. Every enemy within the game, you know, you have. Oh god, what was it? Krieg? Yes, Krieg and Shredder. Krang. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Oh.
Yeah, you're probably thinking of One Piece.
Oh yeah, I probably am. Oh no. Yeah, Krang. Yeah,
take your lashings.
Same. I'm sorry. It's only been like 25 years since I watched Ninja Turtles. Like, bear with me here. Oh boy. But yeah, like every I remember all the different forms of Krang, and you definitely fight them all in this version. So very satisfied with that. The Shredder fights are really cool. Very satisfying to throw the enemies at the screen, as opposed to just different elements introduced through the game. And just like with Streets of Rage, every level felt unique with a lot of background detail, sprite details, enemy details, different fighting elements coming into play for each level. Much more bigger variety than what we saw in Streets of Rage. So it just seems like each beat 'em up game is just building on each other and improving. In what we're talking about. Not a lot.
Ninja Turtles. There's a lot more freedom to go crazy with the enemy designs because it's such a cartoon, I should say.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with how it begins with April O'Neil. No.
Grabs the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. Krang steals the Statue of Liberty. And what did Shredder say? He's like he was out to kill him in the middle of all this or something.
He's just like ha ha ha, just laughing in the turtles' faces on TV.
Yeah. I can't quite remember the plot. All I remember is having fun beating the crap out of all the minions.
Ninjas.
Yeah. I liked how all the boss battles felt unique too.
It's like the first boss is like a fly enemy with a gun. You can fire bullets and fire a giant hand out of it to attack.
Yeah, Baxter, I think that was the fly guy's name.
I think that's what it is. I know
Yeah.
that's what it said in the game. And you can also, there's also like the third level is surfing in the sewer.
Oh yeah. I was very afraid when I came on that level that I was gonna have to do precision platforming with my beat 'em up. Luckily, when you jump, the surfboard automatically just follows your feet, so you don't have to worry about missing anything. I was like, oh my god, yes, no platforming in my beat 'em up. Fucking finally.
Would have made it so much harder.
It would have made it just a nightmare for sure. This really makes me want to go back and play Turtles 2 and 3 on the NES for sure, because this is technically Turtles 4. I have really nothing bad to say about the game. The game didn't feel overly difficult like much of the others that we played. You know, we didn't. I never felt like I hit that proverbial mission 3 or 4 where it just wanted to suck quarters out of me. I think they fixed a lot of that for the console home version.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like this game has a lot more unique elements to it than the previous games we mentioned. Like,
yeah,
with like the throw attacks, you could grab a guy by the ankle, slam him back and forth, and that hits the other enemies. And
oh, so satisfying. Oh, really makes you want to kill someone, doesn't it?
Plus 4 different characters, 4 different ways to play with the different weapons. Plus, like I said, the surfing level in the sewer, that was a kind of a new thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you have like a favorite turtle or a favorite enemy?
Angela the best, if only because I thought the nunchucks looked really cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I always gravitated towards him as well. Actually, that's funny. I've always been a Shredder guy. I love Shredder. He's just the perfect enemy to hate kind of deal. He's got the cool mask. Sure. I was into G.I. Joes as a kid, so he reminded me a lot of like Cobra Commando. Cobra Commander. My bad. I know I didn't. There wasn't any foreground detail like in Streets of Rage comparatively. Everything was in the background. Not a lot. Not a lot of destructible interaction. But there were you know, things would come up every now and again, like throwing a sewer grate at people. But
an explosive barrel at one point.
Yeah, I mean they'd pop up every now and again. It seemed much more fewer and far between. I think that's probably because the characters already have weapons, so they didn't really feel a need to incorporate a lot of that. You know,
that's true.
That's my opinion of it.
I gravitated to Michelangelo a lot, but I think as far as combat is concerned, I probably consider Leonardo a little more satisfying because dual swords, freaking awesome.
Well, absolutely. Who doesn't like dual swords? I mean, that's the only way to play Dark Souls. Am I right, Colin?
As we went over in the fighting game podcast.
So good. Man, Turtles in Time's a straight winner. Everything just feels so satisfying, just jumping around the screen. You can button mash like a little kid and not feel bad about it. You know, that's for sure. If you're a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, this is definitely the game to have. I'm very curious now about Hyperstone Heist. That was kind of the Sega version that they got. Yeah. That's a rare game. I think I might need to maybe pony up and get a repro card of it, because screw secondhand retro game dealers.
I've got nothing bad to say about this game. It's so much fun.
Yeah. It's definitely fun. In terms of detail, I think Streets of Rage is still much better in that. I think they both played pretty much the same. Just if you're a big Ninja Turtles fan, then yeah, you're gonna like this game more. I still think Streets of Rage is a better game.
Oh.
Hey, I'm not Sega marking out totally. It's I've admitted I'm a Turtles fan, but I think as objective as possible, I think Streets of Rage is better.
Experienced with it than me because keep having button troubles on my end. So
yeah, well, I mean, this also had the boss health bar pop up just like Streets of Rage. So the negative elements to say, I think it really just comes down to how much detail was in the environments in the end, and I think Streets of Rage was just better in that aspect. Otherwise, they both did the exact same thing as well as they could for the time.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So pass. It gets a pass. Gets a pass.
Absolutely.
You think it's a good game? You don't think we'll get some death threats from from Turtle fans?
You might.
I might. Yeah, because I said one game was better than it. But all right. So I'll play the Contra music just because I haven't played it yet. Just because it's the closest to the Turtles music I could think of. So, alrighty. We are down to our last beat 'em up game. How about that?
Another one of my picks, the Sailor Moon for the Super Nintendo.
Hoo boy. Oh god, we're gonna talk about Sailor Moon yet again. That is the most we got. Okay, for the record, all of the most amount of hate mail that the podcast has gotten was after our anime review of Sailor Moon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a crap ton of fans of it out there, male and female.
Yeah. So I didn't know really this game existed until I was living in Toronto, and ANC Games has a bunch of repro carts of it. Because it never came out in North America. It was a Super Famicom release only, and it came out in 1993 by Arc System Works, which they're the I believe they're the Blaze Blue guys.
Oh yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. They're also the ones that ported Double Dragon to the Master System, I might add. No, they're the Guilty. Yeah, they're built Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear is Arc System Works. So, just to confirm that. So, Colin, why did you pick the Sailor Moon beat 'em up game as opposed to, oh, I don't know, Final Fight?
I was curious about it. I mean, I knew it existed, but never actually played it.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I wanted a unique pick for this podcast.
Okay. It was published by Bandai, which makes sense. They do a lot of the anime publishing releases. So, yeah, I noticed immediately when I popped this game in. I was like, am I playing Final Fight, but with Sailor Moon characters?
That's about right.
Yeah, and that's what it boiled down to. You can pick between all the 5 major Sailor Scouts, and there's sequels to this. Sailor Moon R was developed by Bandai. It came out later on the Super Famicom, so this wasn't just a one-and-done deal. This game is actually pretty solid. Very surprised.
Yeah, definitely better than Golden Axe for sure.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you, Colin. It's better than Golden Axe. I don't know how that's possible. I mean, this is an anime beat 'em up game of all things.
And it really does feel like you're playing the anime, aside from the fact that they're actually attacking with their fists and feet rather than just transforming and power of will, magic attacks.
Yeah, one element of this, each Sailor Scout has their own little weapon. Sailor Venus has a whip, which you can just overuse and abuse hard. I think it makes the game a lot easier. For sure. I tend to my first character I choose is my favorite Sailor Scout is Sailor Jupiter.
Freaking awesome.
She's got a She moves a bit slower than the other characters, but she hits so much harder.
Yeah, she's got like a 3-hit combo.
Yeah,
as opposed to Sailor Moon, who's got a 5-hit one.
Yeah, Sailor Moon's quick, has the 5-hit combo. She was, I think, the most satisfying to play as, just because she attacks more. Sailor Mercury doesn't hit as hard. She moves faster, but she's got a lot of the kick moves. But Sailor Jupiter, what did it for her was not only is she a badass chick, but she's got the Brainbuster wrestling move. Which is a overhead suplex in which you make the character land hard on basically the back of their neck and shoulder.
Yep.
Frickin' satisfying. Like when you'd hit that move, like you would depending on what stage you're at, you would see things like jiggle in the background or kind of shake. I thought that was a really cool touch to things. The pudding level comes to mind with that. You see pudding kind of jiggle in the background when you hit the move.
Yeah, I remember that. It's like when you're going through that big area with all the desserts in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mostly cake and pudding, but still.
Mostly cake and pudding. But you know which character was absolutely worthless in this game? Sailor Mercury. Or not, yeah, Sailor Mercury. Bubble Power Girl.
Yeah.
God, she was worthless. Her attacks have no range. She does basically no damage. And her quickness doesn't make up for anything because you just get hit so easily because you have to be so close to the enemy characters, the enemy sprites. She even did a dainty. She even like her attack is this like dainty elbows to the sides as she it's her pose in the anime, but as an attack, very worthless. I could not. I mean, if you want to play the game on hard mode, you'd be Sailor Mercury. Like, let me tell you. What are some of the other things or faults that good things or faults you might say about Bishoujo Sailor Moon, Bishoujo Sensi Sailor Moon, Super Famicom Edition?
Well, I played as Jupiter, Moon, and Venus in that order.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my complaints was that the enemies got knocked off the screen really easily, and I had to constantly wait for them to come back in.
That was kind of the same issue with Final Fight, because the sprites are so big that they take up a good chunk of the screen, which in itself is kind of I don't want to say it's a fault of good design, because I'm surprised the Super Nintendo would be able to handle such a thing. Because the sprites are very detailed and they're large, very sexualized in the Sailor Scout's legs, that's for sure. Ooh, buddy.
But no panty shots.
No panty shots. We're not going that deep into the rabbit hole. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like couple hits on a sprite and they'd fly off the screen instead of falling down. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Wait for them to come back in.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was a time killer almost.
Hit them off the screen, but there was no guarantee you could actually hit them. It's kind of reminds me of the problem Egoraptor had with Zelda Ocarina of Time in his Sequelitis video. Just a lot of waiting.
Yeah, but luckily there are enough sprites that keep flowing onto the screen, which I guess it takes away from that waiting element. And finally, Colin, I got my wish. Enemy health bars for every enemy you see.
Yeah.
I finally got that. So you know how much damage you're doing to each sprite. I really like that. This was the only game we covered on the cast that did it. I can't remember off the top of my head if the first Final Fight did that. I think we didn't see that till sequels like in Streets of Rage 2 or subsequent Final Fights. But Sailor Moon had it. The Sailor Moon beat 'em up. I had the thing I wanted the most. What'd you think of the music in this game or the enemy sprite designs?
Music didn't really stand out too much to me. I mean, it was fairly serviceable. For the enemy designs, I didn't have a problem with them. A lot of them were basically just palette swaps, but there were some unique ones, like that one Jester enemy that would jump all over the screen and do like spin kicks, or the toad-looking guy who was also kind of looking like a clown. He'd do like slide attacks or jump attacks. Otherwise, just walking really slowly.
Sure, sure. I thought I was trying to remember. It's been like a year since I seen the original anime. I was trying to remember a lot of the enemies that showed up in the anime, and I think this did a good job. Recreating the enemies we saw in the anime. Yeah. Game is hard as shit, though, I must say. Like, when you got to a boss battle, it was just brutal. Like, the enemies would do so much damage to you just so fast.
Yeah, especially, like, the saber-toothed cat.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're watching live right now on Twitch or YouTube or what have you, yeah, if that saber-toothed cat, like, hit you, half your health bar was immediately gone. And the thing would just jump across the screen. It was very unforgiving in those elements. I had such, like, with so many good elements we're speaking about the game, once you get to that first, like, major boss battle, that's when the game just gets so unforgiving and hard and difficult. I can totally see why a community would do, like, resort to save states in this game.
Yeah, at one point I just said, fuck it, and then spammed the hell out of the dropkick attack. That was the only one that would really consistently land.
Yeah, you have to use and abuse elements in this game. Like, Sailor Venus's whip does fuck all against boss fights. It might stun them for maybe a second, but then all they'll do is leap against you and knock you down, take half your health bar. It was so unforgiving in these elements. It basically made the game unplayable once you get to that first boss.
So weird like that.
Brutal. It was brutally difficult because I really liked what I was experiencing and seeing on the screen in front of me. It just got to a point where, and I can already hear the audience now saying "get good." Not with this. Like,
yeah,
the elements that were thrown, the elements in the gameplay that was thrown in front of. If you want to say "get good," then you have to be perfect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That, to me, that's unacceptable. Like, the video I have up right now, the dude's save stating, like, not a whole lot, but he's sure as shit trying, because he's stuck on the saber-toothed cat and he's cheating. So that should tell you all you need to know right there. Very, very hard. I did notice that as the I of course I had to do the same thing. I ended up resorting to save state just to see more of the game. And as you continue through the game, the backgrounds and everything get less and less detailed as they progress. Nothing's in the foreground except irritating things in front of the sprites. You know, it's not something cool and aesthetic looking like what we saw in Streets of Rage with lampposts and fire hydrants and what have you. It's just things to get in your way in the vision of the fighting going on screen. But in terms of, like, if you want a Sailor Moon game, yeah, this is fantastic. Like, you get to be Sailor Moon, you get to fight as all the Sailor Scouts. They lack special attacks, though, I feel.
If you hold down the attack button, then they'll do like a projectile attack, but that's about the extent of it.
Well, here's the problem with that. You have to hold down to, like, power up, just like they do in the anime, but they stand still and you can't, like, defend yourself or attack. So that just leaves you open for attacks, and you take damage so easily, it's essentially worthless.
Yeah, pretty much, except if you've got the enemy off to the side of the screen, you just keep hitting projectile attack until somebody walks back on.
Yeah, but they funnel the enemies to you often enough where you can't really take a moment to charge up your special attack.
Like you said, I found playing as Sailor Moon more satisfying than as Jupiter, because at the beginning of the game, Jupiter, you had to one combo to kill the enemies, whereas with Moon, you only needed the one combo.
Right.
And that made things go a lot faster for me.
Yeah, I think they clearly did that on purpose to make Sailor Moon the main Sailor Scout, the special one. I will say Stage 2 was probably the most interesting, because you're, like, fighting in front of a theme park and you have trains going by you, bringing some extra elements into it. But the the sprites started repeating themselves like way too much. The enemies lost their appeal. It was a real shame. I started off speaking so highly of the game, but again, as it went on, I didn't want to play it anymore. Wasn't into it.
And the characters go into their idle animations really quickly. It's like 1 second, suddenly Sailor Jupiter's got her elbows up in that typical anime pose and tapping her foot.
Why am I not continuously moving? You're a terrible gamer. But yeah, this game just reminded me so much of Final Fight. I was actually kind of surprised about it, but I would still say Final Fight's a much better game. Quite surprising, actually. But hey,
it was better than I expected.
It was, yes. I will say it was much better than I expected, but it got bad really fast, and there was a lot of elements to hate about it. A lot of elements to praise it, just not enough for me to like the game or have any interest in playing it further, unfortunately. It gets a fail from me, honestly, Colin. A light fail, but a fail nonetheless.
But a light pass on my end.
So, should I be the Street Fighter death or the Mario death sound? What do you prefer?
I don't really remember what the Street Fighter one sounds like, so...
All right, do that one then.
It seems a little more appropriate for this because...
Oh yeah, because fighting. Yeah, you're right. Well, okay. We've reached the end of the cast. Let's go over the 6 games that we covered. First was Double Dragon, then it was River City Ransom, then it was Golden Axe, Sailor Moon, Streets of Rage, and what am I missing here?
Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time. Thank you, Colin. Thank you for having that. What was your favorite and least favorite of the cast?
Well, this is a bit of a close tie, but I have to say Turtles in Time is my favorite, with River City Ransom being a very close second.
Ooh, interesting. I think I can guess your least favorite. Bleh.
Boo.
Such a shame because the second one's so much better. Okay. My least favorite's also Golden Axe. That's not shocking by any means, especially with a lot of the heavy hitters that we did discuss on the cast. Being a console release title, I expected more. I definitely see the appeal, but Golden Axe 2 is miles better. I would say just play that. My favorite would have to be the original Streets of Rage. It is not Turtles in Time. I just had a lot more fun with the 90s aesthetic, the crime syndicate thing going on. I thought there was more detail going on throughout the mission, but Turtles in Time was a very close second. I will admit that. So definitely Streets of Rage. I think that was the winner out of the cast for me. And man, it was super fun playing these again. Definitely quick and easy experience if you ask me, Colin.
I guess another unanimous pooper award.
Yeah, well, there's only 2 of us this time, so I guess that was much easier to accomplish as opposed to 3 or 4 of us. So once again, this was episode 20 of the Red Leaf Retrocast. Beat 'em ups. Thank you for joining us. If you if you want us to go back to more beat 'em ups, we're more than happy to do it. I think we're gonna start rolling around some themes here sooner rather than later. Our next cast is what was supposed to be today. That is Car Combat with a special guest. Save that for more. If you want to keep following us, following the podcast, follow me on Twitter at Colin and JD Red Leaf Retrocast. Also on Instagram. You can watch us live mostly on Sundays. I'm also streaming more video games basically every day, pretty sporadically around times, mostly around dinner time or shortly after. But you can watch all of that Twitch, Mixer, Apple, and JD as well. So it matches a lot of the social medias, and you can find every podcast ever recorded on the YouTube channel, which is Moose and Spiel, found in the description below. And all your favorite podcasting outlets, be it Stitcher Smart Radio, iTunes, Google Play, and many others. And we're still waiting on any sort of confirmation over the podcast being released on Spotify. Let's see if they allow us to be on their illustrious service. So, thank you for joining us. And Colin, why don't you send us out with some thoughts? And I'll play some Turtles in Time music to send us out.
This was a lot of fun. Not sure what else I can really say. I mean, getting to revisit so many games from my past. This is a lot of fun. I mean, and it didn't have a chance to really play through in depth with a lot of these games, but still great. I'm glad to have come on here, and you'll definitely be seeing more of me in the future. So
excellent. You definitely saved my ass, so thank you, Colin. Stopping.
Okay.
Save project. Cool. Record audio immediately. There we go. Ooh. Perfect. Not so many viewers today, but I think a lot of people are busy this weekend. That's what I'm gathering here. I imagine a lot more people are going to be busy next weekend, it being Mother's Day. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting a lot of good feedback on the live streaming of the episodes, especially on Mixer. We get about anywhere from 20 to 50 views of the podcast on Mixer, and that's led to some more downloads for past episodes. So that's pretty cool.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. So we got Car Combat next, and let's see here, who's up after that? Josh's Heroines. It's Kevin's pick, and then you're up again for a theme. We won't count the beat 'em up since we came to a consensus on that one. So if you want to do an RPG one, now would probably be the time. That way we can dive more further into it. But if not, then it doesn't matter. Still there, Colin?
Yeah. I'm just kind of looking a few things over. I'm exporting to an MP3 file.
Okay.
Audacity.
Yeah, you were cutting out there quite a bit. Not so much though that it was an issue to understand you. Much better quality for podcast release now that you're still recording on your end.
My for whatever reason, my Discord shows me as RTC disconnected, but you can still hear me, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
What it's saying. But as for topics, that's a bit of a tough one. I mean, I wrote down a few ideas, like there's time travel games, or bad/good anime licensed games, or games with great soundtracks. That's a
Ooh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, just think on it. But yeah, if we ever revisit RPGs, I'd like to be able to put more time into them since they take longer to get going. You know.
I think if once we get to like November or December, we should revisit female protagonists so we can finally do Beyond Good and Evil.
Well, that'd be just the one game though.
Well, there's also Siren. But then again, I don't know how many more we could do.
Yeah, that's the issue. I don't know if there's a lot of. We'd have to come up with a theme that would involve just Beyond Good and Evil being a game that we can choose. I feel.
Enough.
You know. I wonder. Yeah. Oh well. All right. So I'm gonna cut the stream off here now. Well, here we go. Let's put the ending thing up. Yeah, I wonder what theme we could get, because I'd like to revisit Beyond Good and Evil myself, especially with the sequel coming out for Ubisoft.
Which one? Oh, Beyond Good and Evil.
Yeah. Could just do adventure game.
That could work.
Yeah, just straight adventure. Just keep it simple. Or games with good stories. That has a great story.
Yeah.
That'd be my suggestion.
Yeah. Just trying to think of games
Like story focused.
Story focused games came out in like 2005 and 6 and such, but
well, no, I mean, there's a lot of PlayStation titles that have great stories involved that get you to progress to the plot.
Shenmue could be one of them.
Exactly, Shenmue's very focused. That's retro. Beyond Good and Evil. Let's see here. Numerous RPGs like Chrono Trigger. That's story centric.
Do Chrono Trigger because I've already played that one.
Yeah, they definitely exist. There's no doubt. We just have to think about it for a little bit.
Golden Sun. I do have that one.
Yeah, that's a Game Boy Advance title, isn't it?
Came out in 2001.
Yeah, we could definitely do something like that. So. Alrighty. What did we clock in the podcast at? Almost 2.5 hours. Nice. We had a lot to talk about in the discussion, Fred. That was cool.
I certainly did.
Yeah, I just pulled up recent news. It made it interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I liked it. Even though I was not particularly familiar with a lot of the stuff going on. Just
you can still have opinions on it.
I'm still trying to think of story-focused games.